Happening now on Grid Tonight, Doug Boles was named the new president of IndyCar. Is he the right choice to lead the series into a new era of potential growth? Denny Hamlin was fastest this morning in practice for the Daytona 500, leading his Toyota teammates. What should we expect heading into tonight's single car qualifying session? Hello to all of our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lambeth. With me are Joshua Burch from JB Motorsports, Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance, and Jackson Lambros. Welcome back from Outlet Media. We encourage everyone to interact with us in the chat. Support us through Super Chat and visit gridnetworktv.com for our latest content. Now here's Josh with our top story this evening.
Thank you, Kobe. Good evening to you all. So yesterday, Penske Entertainment announced that Doug Boles, president of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, will add to his responsibilities and become the new president of the NTT IndyCar Series. Boles will replace Jay Frye as the president of IndyCar. Since 2013, Boles has served as the IMS track president and has achieved many milestones, such as producing a sellout for the 100th running of the Indianapolis 500, which was the first full-capacity crowd in IndyCar history. He also managed more than $150 million in a strategic investment. This included Project 100 and major infrastructure improvements at the Speedway. Boles is also a beloved and respected member of the IndyCar paddock who has recently plenty of praise for his promotional prowess and strategic marketing capabilities. In a statement, Boles said that he's honored to lead the amazing team at IndyCar and believes the future of the sport at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is bigger and brighter than ever. Mark Miles, president and CEO of Penske Entertainment, said Boles is the ideal choice to lead IndyCar and IMS into a new era of opportunity and visibility. Miles added that Boles is an exceptional leader and motivator who's appreciated by fans and respected by team owners, drivers, partners, and key stakeholders. Photo taken by Chris Jones from Penske Entertainment. Jackson, Kobe, and Matt are with me for this one, but Jackson, we'll start with you as well. Given how much he's accomplished throughout his career and the deep respect many have for him throughout the IndyCar paddock, is Mark Miles correct to say that Doug Boles is the right person for this moment in the series history?
Absolutely, Josh. And for me, it starts on the charisma side of things. You're talking about a guy who has not only major love among the IndyCar people, but among the Speedway, among the people in the state of Indiana. The guy has his own Indy Roadster collection. He drives around downtown Indiana in it. You'll see it on X, Blue Sky timelines. This is a guy that has literally grown up into the sport, into the race, and he has a love for this sport that I think is reflective of the fans. And I think that's another major aspect that we're going to see compared to IndyCar presidents of old. Regardless of how this tenure goes, you are going to be hearing more from Doug Boles, I think, than anybody else. But this is a guy that, as you said, Josh, sold out for the 100th running of the Indy 500. He knows how to put this race on. And I think the big thing that stands out for me, one of the big things that stands out for me, is how this guy is going to be able to bring that excitement of Indy over to the remainder of IndyCar races in America and beyond. The really kind of key essence of it for me right now, though, is the choices that other series are making. And I really want to focus on NASCAR right now and how they are treating themselves as a culture and a series. And you know, there's always going to be some controversy when you're branching outside of the USA and doing experimental things and changing your series. But when NASCAR has the Clash in its all-star race at the center point of its existence, where the sport was conceived, you can go do cool stuff. You can go run in CDMX and go try cool new things. I'm not saying the solution is a Clash or an all-star race adjacent for IndyCar, but we can go internationally more. IndyCar is still kind of in this existential crisis since this merger back in 2008, that finding that spectrum of how Formula One and how much of a NASCAR you're going to be. I think Doug internally has this vision of what IndyCar is, what its culture is, what this sport is, and he is going to do a fantastic job of spreading that mentality outside of Indiana.
Excellent, Jackson. I couldn't agree more with what you said. And I know people like to throw the term "people's champion" around loosely, but if I had to call someone the people's champion, that would be Doug Bowles. Like you were saying, he's really good. He's really good with the fans. Like if you're a fan talking to him, and he's talking back to you, it's like he's actually hearing you and listening to what you're saying. Instead of be like, I know what's best for you, so I'm just gonna give it to you. He actually comes across as a person who is open to feedback, open into listening to what you feel is best for a series, and then just doing what he can do. And Josh, you were mentioning all of his accomplishments. Like Doug Bowles, he's Mr. IMS because he's been there for a while, and he's done some incredible things with the Speedway to make the Indianapolis 500 bigger and better than it's ever been, and also a lot of improvements to the track infrastructure as well. And the people who have been to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in the last couple of years have given it rave reviews of all of the improvements that Doug has oversaw. Yeah, I'm really excited to see what he can do for the IndyCar series as a whole, because he takes his job at IMS very seriously. And if you've been watching races at IMS over the last decade or so, whenever there's like a problem on track, you'll see the safety workers, and then you'll see this guy with his suit and tie, come out there on the track. And that guy, the suit and tie and glasses, that is Doug Bowles. He wants to be up close and personal and see what's going on firsthand. And I think that's the type of mentality that he's going to have as the president of IndyCar. That he's gonna go out there, roll up his sleeves, and get to work and try to do the best job that he possibly can. And out of all the potential candidates out there in IndyCar who could have been named new president of IndyCar, I think Doug Bowles is probably the best person that they could have come up with. Really looking forward to seeing what he can accomplish, picking right up from Jay Frye.
Evening, everyone. As soon as I saw this news breaking earlier in the week, I was like, yes, this is good. Good news. It's a positive move from the series for the series. As Jackson was saying, Indianapolis is its own beast for the 500, but they just need to keep branching that out across the rest of the year. And I don't want to be Nancy negative on this, but did we not have a similar conversation when Roger Penske bought the series and all of those things 3 years ago, and most of the year last year off track, all we did was bash IndyCar for things that were happening. So just pump the brakes a little bit. But I don't want to be that person, but we've been in this position before where we've gone, something's happening, and then nothing really happened.
And I want to jump in on that really quick, Matt, because I really do want to agree with you. But again, this is a guy that wants this series to succeed. And I think the big thing that stands out to me was the fact that both the series and the Speedway is a package. You can't run one, you got to run both. That is immediately, for me, future-proofing this and making sure we don't have a kind of schism. We don't have another civil war like last year. That's definitely making it possible. And I know with certain talks last year, there was a fear of that. But again, you will have to do some big digging to find a guy that does not like Doug Bowles in the paddock.
Sure.
I think he's genuinely going to listen to everyone, drivers, teams, event organizers, fans. He is going to do everything he can to make this the best series possible. And just off of the resume alone for me, Matt, what sticks out is, again, just how much he's been accountable and how much he's already listened to make the 500 the best it can be. So it's going to be really exciting, in my opinion, to see what he can do with the remainder of the IndyCar series.
Absolutely. And I think as well, Matt, go on.
No, I was just going to say, I don't disagree with anything that anyone said. I just don't want to be in the position that we were.
You always got to take it with a pinch of salt, right? It's IndyCar, but hard to complain.
This was a grand slam move with IndyCar. Doug Bowles is incredible and amazing, says Adam as well. I agree. And Matthew Owens behind the mic says he's going to be great. And when they start taking applications for president of the Speedway, I'll hand deliver my resume as well. I thought he'd more likely want to be in Daytona, but he would be good.
Yeah, we might have to go for the PA role first and then work your way up, Matt. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, I hope he's got his vocals ready as well. I made a joke a couple of weeks ago when he was covering on USON's Crash and Bowman Gray that he would be an amazing opera singer. I hope he's got his vocals ready for qualifying in a couple of hours' time. Me and him are going to be covering that for the 500. But looking at some other notable changes within Penske Entertainment's leadership structure, of course, we've got Mark Silber is now being promoted to the senior vice president of IndyCar competition and development. Kyle Novak will become IndyCar's vice president and officiating and race control. In addition to continuing his duties as the vice president of corporate communications, in addition to continuing his duties, and I've read that twice for Penske Entertainment. Now, Alex Dameron as well will be IndyCar's chief marketing officer, and Lewis Kissinger will also be promoted to general manager of operations at IMS. Now, looking at the now former president of IndyCar, Jay Frye, he leaves this position after a decade leading IndyCar through some quite consequential times as well. Frye helped secure entitlement series sponsorships with Verizon and NTT Data, the development of the Universal Aero kit, the introduction of the Aero screen, and getting the ball rolling with the hybrid engines debuting last summer. Frye also oversaw an expanded grid that resulted in a charter system debuting this year. And entering 2025 season, there's a lot of optimism surrounding IndyCar's new partnership with Fox Sports. Pato Awards recently appeared, of course, in a commercial during the Super Bowl. Joseph Newgarden attended the Super Bowl last Sunday in New Orleans as well. So, Matt, starting with you on this one, does Jay Frye deserve credit for the good moments that occurred during his tenure of leadership, or criticism for missed opportunities to move IndyCar forward?
I mean, as you've listed there, plenty of things have gone under the bridge, haven't they, in the last few years in the IndyCar world. I saw Graham Rahal earlier in the week jumping to praise Jay on X, saying it's a big loss to have him leaving. So lots and lots of things have happened. With all of that, we've still got a car that's 13 years old. As a base, I know lots of things have changed in and around it, but we're still there with that. Hopefully, with the progression of what's going on in the IndyCar world over the last 6 to 8 months, we can get somewhere with that coming up, hopefully, and that'll all fall into Boles' hands as well. But there has been, just so many things. All the stuff at the 500, the hybrid, even last year, just as it on its own thing. The whole Penske stuff at St. Pete at the beginning of the year. We had you've not listed the thermal $1 million challenge last year. Of course, Jackson was there on site. So big things going on in IndyCar over the last few years. Perhaps doesn't get the credit that he should have for the things that have happened. IndyCar's still at a level. It does need to jump up more. Maybe, like with a lot of things, time's time. It needed a shuffle, and they've done it 3 or 4 weeks out from the beginning of this year's kickoff in St. Pete. So well done, thank you to Jay Frye.
Yeah, for sure. We'll definitely give Jay Frye his flowers here. By all means, he wasn't a bad president of IndyCar, but at all. Josh, you listed all of his accomplishments. Getting those entitlement sponsors with Verizon and NTT Data were really good. Then the Universal Aero kit, that was really important. I remember when they first announced those, people were really excited because give them an old school look back to those Indy cars, because we all remember the Aero kit right before the Aero kit we have now. Honda and Chevrolet were getting kind of creative, getting kind of funky. And I remember one practice session in St. Pete, I think it was the first race with this, with the previous Aero kit, that they had pieces and all over the racetrack and stuff. It just got kind of messy. So to have a simplified Aero kit was really important here for the series. And then the Aero screen, don't have to say much about that. We've seen many different cases in the last few seasons of how wonderful the Aero screen has been. So Jay overseeing that, well done with that. And then the hybrid engines, they had issues when at the very beginning of that. And Jay Frye, under his leadership, he was a part of the group of leaders at IndyCar who decided that it's best not to debut this at St. Pete. We need to give it a few more months to work through these teething issues. And although, not necessarily the best look to do that, it ended up being the right decision, because if you showed up to St. Pete and had a whole bunch of engine issues, that would have been an embarrassing moment for the series. But yeah, we still had some teething issues with the hybrid engine, but that's to be expected. But for the most part, it ran really well last year, and it seemed to get better throughout the season. The teams have had a lot of data on that now, and they've had an entire off season to continue developing the new hybrid system. And I'm sure it'll be even better this season. So I think Jay Frye deserves a lot of credit for all he's done there. And then Doug Boles, he's as you mentioned, Matt, he's going to have a lot on his plate coming up, because like you mentioned, how we've had the same car for, the longest time now. And by the end of this decade, we should have a brand new IndyCar chassis. I think maybe like 2027, 2028, 2029 when we should have that new car coming online. And I remember reading an article from Racer.com from Marshall Pruitt a few months ago, how some of the teams saw the first rendering of this new car and they weren't really pleased about it at all. And a lot of them were complaining about the back end of the car because they said it looks very similar to the current FIA Formula 2 car, which the teams did not like at all. So maybe Doug Boles will have a different vision and ask the designers to go back to the drawing board and try to find something that the teams really want. I think they also want a car that's lighter, lose a whole bunch of weight that's on the car. So maybe that'll be something as well. And there's also a lot of opportunities that Doug Boles can help grow the series, in terms of marketing, and because this is a great series with great personalities. And I guess when you really think about it, IndyCar hasn't reached its true potential yet, but if they hit it right, I think IndyCar has great potential in the future to grow both here at home in America and abroad internationally as well. But in regards to Jay Frye being replaced by Doug Boles, I don't see it as a case, that Jay Frye failed, as president of IndyCar, that he failed in the way of not helping the series reach its true potential. I see it as, I hate to use a stick and ball sports example here, but it's like you have a solid coach, that can get you to the playoffs every year. But the thing is, he can get you to the playoffs. He can potentially get you to a deep playoff run, but he can't get you to the Super Bowl. He can't get you to the NBA Finals. He can't get you to the World Series. So you try to bring in this new person who can potentially get you over the hump. So that's how I see the replacement of Doug Boles, who's taken over for Jay Frye.
Yeah, and I think you've got to realize how much this guy was thrown into the storm. Originally had a major marketing background, helped with, way back the Brian Vickers days of the Red Bull NASCAR program, as you remember, Kobe. But this is a guy that was thrown in to kind of pick up the pieces from Randy Bernard and the Vegas tragedy in 2011. And he's a guy that kept the lights on for nearly a decade when really we didn't know what the future of IndyCar was even going to look like, if it was going to be something at all. So I think for me, what really sticks out is, I know this is an old car. I know we've complained about how much we've wanted one forever. And that's not to say that Randy Bernard Jay has done everything in his power to, one, make it as fresh and unique as possible. And that wasn't something that was told to him by Mark Miles. This is all stuff that Jay did himself, that was based on the cards that were dealt to him by Mark Miles. So the new, making that move in 2015 over to the manufacturer aero kits, have Chevy and Honda develop their own aerodynamics, then move back to the universal aero kit in 2018, have it look absolutely phenomenal, bring in the aero screen in, 2020, 2021. And the amount of, as you mentioned, Kobe, the amount of lives that has undoubtedly saved in just half a decade of that being around. And you look into the coulda, shoulda, woulda's, the updated engine regulations, and trying to get the hybrid in as soon as possible before COVID and squeezing that in. All of this was kind of to try and make that appeal to a third OEM as high as possible. And unfortunately, as much as Jay tried to help Mark Miles, nothing couldn't be done there. And we will ultimately think we won't find out the full reasonings behind that for a while. But I think for me, what stands out is, one, he absolutely deserves his flowers. But two, I think you can pin it on a couple of things over the past couple of years that have maybe been the final nails in the coffin, whether it was the charter system, the delay of the hybrid system, the new car prototype. You don't make this kind of move, Josh, with 2 weeks to go, when we're with 2 weeks until St. Petersburg. And that's why I think Jay is unfortunately going to be leaving with a pretty bitter taste in his mouth.
Yeah, it's kind of a big thing to do, as you say, 2 weeks before everything kicks off again. But if there's any pair of hands you have to fall into, I think Doug's is the safest you can have for a while. Let's hope it does move forward, especially as we've seen, certainly from the TV side, that Fox is getting ready to cover. They've had a preseason test commentary to make sure the box gels, and I think it's going to be okay.
Really quickly, before we move on, Alex Dameron absolutely deserves his flowers for getting this promotion also to CMO. major guy that helped out in the background with getting that Fox deal going and helping organize the content there. So, we talk so much about like the lack of promotion for IndyCar, how we want it to be represented. He's really been the big revolutionary in what you're seeing now on Fox and on socials. God, since the start of last season, we've seen that amped up. So very, very happy with Alex and really excited to see what he can do for CMO.
The best news was, as I've been watching a lot of Fox Sports over the past few weeks with Super Bowl, they followed in as well with all of NASCAR's coverage as well at Bowman Gray. The one thing I was really surprised, I did not see one IndyCar advert during NASCAR coverage until today.
Oh.
The first practice session, they showed the Pato Award Super Bowl commercial again, and it was slap bang in between the practice. I thought, that's it. Now we're on it, because you've got to advertise to your racing community. Jackson, we're going to let you go, so I just want to quickly round out with you. Are you looking forward to Sebring? Because they're testing right now. They're ahead of him next week.
So much. Cannot wait. We're actually going to finally see the AMR V12 in action. We were just talking before we went on. They've kind of taken a lot of the restrictions on that off, so we're going to have a really good show, a really good sound as well. So super amped for Sebring. Super excited. The off season for IndyCar is so long. You guys know this. We're 2 weeks out. Finally, we're finally getting there. So can't wait.
I just hope that I can cover it. I'm not hoping nothing else happens. Anyway, thank you, Jackson. We'll see you again shortly as well. And Kobe's going to disappear as well to prep for his segment. So I'll be left with Matt as we move on to our second story of the evening. Earlier today, the NASCAR Cup Series was on track for the opening practice session for the 67th running of the Daytona 500. During the first half of the practice session, most drivers made single car runs to prepare for tonight's qualifying session set for 8 p.m. Eastern on FS1. By the end of the night, we'll know the front row starters for the Great American Race and the starting lineup for tomorrow night's Daytona Duels. Now, but in practice, Joe Gibbs Racing's Denny Hamlin was fastest, followed by his fellow Toyota teammates. When practice time was coming to an end, a lot of drivers did some drafting practice, so it was hard to get a good read on who should be a contender for the pole. But if we follow recent history, don't be surprised if at least one driver on the front row is from Hendrick Motorsports or drives a Ford. Bringing back a practice session before qualifying proved to be a smart move because several drivers ran into issues that could have affected their qualifying run later that night, or even the dual race on Thursday. One of the most notable drivers with issues was Brad Keselowski, who had smoke coming from the car. His RFK Racing team later diagnosed a steering issue, and the number 6 Ford got back on track. Two drivers from Spear Motorsports, Justin Haley and Michael McDowell, didn't participate in practice, and the photo taken there by James Gilbert from Getty Images. Matt, do several drivers running into issues with their cars validate the common sense decision to bring back this practice before the single car qualifying? And do you think the two Spire drivers sitting out practice could put them at a slight disadvantage? Of course, their teammate Carson Hocevar practiced throughout.
Yes, been a lot of practice chats, hasn't there, this afternoon and this evening on social media. Should it happen? Should it not happen? If it happens, or are we going to put a gun to everyone's head and say, you must go on the racetrack, this is practice, please get out there? But as you said, some teams have encountered some problems and they've got themselves sorted. If Brad Keselowski's steering issue had happened on his qualifying run, he'd be in trouble perhaps for having a really good starting. I know Daytona 500 grid positions don't matter like a Formula One Grand Prix, but being up the front there is always key. We're going to find, as you said, we're going to find out who's going to be on the front row for Sunday by the end of the pole runoff later on. It probably will be a Chevrolet, and it will probably come from Hendrick Motorsport. But they don't have practice. And another thing that I saw mentioned was, they only ran a week and a half or so ago at Bowman Gray. Matthew says, practice. My God, we had practice. One man that loves a practice session. They ran only a week and a half ago at Bowman Gray. What's the problem? Well, these aren't the same cars that they brought to Daytona. These are Speedway spec cars rather than the short track stuff that they ran up in Winston-Salem last weekend. So I'm all for more practice. Since COVID, we've had a distinct lack of practice, and we all know the reasons why that was, trying to cut some costs and do etc. etc. But for the first race of the season, especially, you've got to get out there and see what's what for this huge build-up run that we have to the Daytona 500 on Sunday that we don't have. We talk about it for Indianapolis for the 500 in the summer in May, but it's kind of similar here for Daytona. We have the qualifying runoff tonight, then races tomorrow to set the proper grid, and from there it's straight into the 500 on Sunday mid-afternoon, and perhaps maybe even more mid-afternoon than normal if the weather gods have their say. So yeah, all for more practice, but if you don't want to go out, that's your call.
Can we just come up to my camera for a second? Because you say about now having delays further into the evening. Have you seen what is happening to my head and skin? Because I am literally on so many different time zones. I am flirting with the international dateline at this point. It is getting ridiculous. So you just said that. I thought, oh, good. I'll get to be in bed by 3 a.m. tomorrow. No, it doesn't look like that's going to be possible. By the way, here in the UK, it's 11:09 p.m. on Wednesday. I won't get to bed until 6 p.m. Thursday night, I think, unless I'm very much mistaken and there's something else I've missed. But for the first time as well, Helio Castroneves got behind the wheel of a cup car at Daytona in Trackhouse Racing's Project 91 car, sponsored by Wendy's. The four-time Indy 500 champion ran 13 laps and was 12th fastest. And as we all well know by now, Castroneves will be in the Daytona 500 no matter what. If he doesn't race through his dual race, he'll fall back on the open exemption provisional, and the size of the field will grow to 41. However, some of the drivers don't seem to be in favour of Castroneves getting a provisional, while you have Cup Series champions Jimmy Johnson and Martin Truex Jr. still needing to lock themselves in. Today at Daytona 500 Media Day, motorsports journalist Dalton Hopkins interviewed Johnson and Truex Jr., asking them how they felt about Castroneves being locked in. Truex Jr. thinks it's unfair and doesn't understand why Castroneves is locked in the race, and Johnson isn't. While Johnson himself said he's had a problem with the OEP because that position will take up one of the 40 spots and believes it should just be the 41st starting position. Now, Matt, would it be best for Castroneves to make the race on speed or through his dual race to diminish the criticism of his guaranteed entry?
Absolutely, it would. I hope he's on the front row, honestly, so that then we can stop talking about this. And I'm looking forward to Monday and Tuesday when we can stop talking about this, because I don't think we're going to see it again all season. For, as we talked about a couple of weeks ago when this was announced, another IndyCar driver that wants to come and do a race, I don't know, at Michigan or at Dover or somewhere, or someone from, I don't know, from IMSA wants to come and do a race. We're not going to. I don't think we're going to see this again. This is the Daytona. Maybe the Coke 600 perhaps, but this is the Daytona 500. It's a special race, as we all know. And if Helio can get in on speed, great. And if he races his way in, if he's in the top 10 even by the end of the dual races tomorrow, then I think this conversation's kind of dead in the water. We want to see as many cars racing as possible. We know the Daytona pit lane is capable of holding more cars. We've seen that at the Rolex 24 a few weeks ago when they had 60 plus. So that isn't, it's not trying to squeeze one more in somewhere. So yeah, let's hope he gets in fairly with a decent car and gets through tomorrow without having an incident and all that kind of jazz.
Yeah, it's also important to remember that if he has to fall back on his exemption, then the team, of course, don't get paid. Because if you race your way in, you're eligible for the payout and the cash. But if he doesn't and he has to fall back on the CEP, the team don't get paid. So there's kind of an incentive there like, well, I've got to get through. Otherwise, the Project 91 team, even though it's Project 91, it's still part of Trackhouse, and Trackhouse need the money. So it's sort of, because they're running the car. So it's sort of it's a catch-22 we've got coming in. Another catch-22 I'm going to put you in now, Matt, by the way, is to make a prediction. Which driver will win the pole, and who'll join them on the front row of the grid?
Back on that Trackhouse thing quickly, we've seen in times immemorial where the smaller teams that are pretty much unsponsored would get themselves in somehow and then they roll up on Sunday with a completely different look to the car because they picked up a sponsor over the Friday, Saturday, and there's some cash for getting in the race. Predictions for tonight. It's hard to look past Hendrick with their current run of form, and the man that's got the hot hand after last week is Chase Elliott. So I'm gonna continue with that, and I feel like we might have a surprise-ish entry. My front row pick is Chase Elliott and Chris Buescher.
Oh, that is a good front row. Okay. My prediction for pole qualifying tonight is that the Hendrick Motorsports car will be on pole position for Daytona 500, says Adam as well, absolutely. And behind the mic says, and we have qualifying tonight, thank heavens as well. Joe, I'm just going to get a feeling when I go into the commentary box later with Matthew, he's going to be like Ted Lasso. Practice! You're missing practice!
He's been itching for this for the last couple of weeks. He says, I like Helio and Allgaier to time trial their way in tonight. I don't love Johnson's chances tonight or tomorrow to make the race. That'd be a big story, wouldn't it, if Jimmy misses out?
He just made it last year. And then, of course, he didn't make it very far in the race, did he? Was it, lap 3? He got taken out something last year? Yeah, something ridiculous. But yeah, it's going to be a very interesting weekend as well. And of course, Chase Elliott, if that prediction is correct, he's on a bit of a winning streak, of course, with victory at Bowman Gray. And then he was supporting the Eagles in the Super Bowl. And they won brilliantly as well. Okay. To be fair, I was sort of on both sides of the camp, but I was supporting the Eagles because of my brother's partner. So that sort of, I was very happy. And after a year ago of the upset, I'm better. I support 49ers. Ted Lasso stole that line from Alan Iverson Long. He did, actually, yeah. But I love Ted Lasso. He doesn't love Ted Lasso. Okay, round up for my part of the evening. Let's hand over to Matt White for the latest in the Grid EPI update.
Thank you, Josh. 2 races this weekend in the Grid Endurance Performance Index of 2025 takes us to 4 on the board for the year, which means we are filling up the leaderboard nicely, and we'll have the first Grid Endurance Performance Index leaderboard on our first show in April, as always. This weekend, though, they were at Dubai Autodrome, so that's 5 races, sorry, now it is off the top of my head, in the Grid Endurance Performance Index this year, and 3 of them have taken place at Dubai, 24 hours a few weeks ago, and now 2 races this weekend for the Asian Le Mans Series, which was back in action, and we're scoring it slightly differently this year in the Grid EPI as we have done in the last couple of years. Here's what happened in the races. On Saturday, Algarve Pro Racing took victory overall and in LMP2 with the number 25 car there on screen. Michael Jensen, Malfi Jakobsen, and Valerio Rinicella, 19-year-old Italian. Look out for him. Could be the next big thing coming through in sports car racing. That's their second win of the season because, of course, the Asian Le Mans Series calendar started before Christmas at Sepang. In GT, the GT3 category, 2Cs Motorsport were the winners. 13th place overall for their Mercedes. Anthony McIntosh and IMSA names, Parker Thompson and Ben Barnicoat getting the victory. We know them from Lexus, of course, but in a Mercedes here for 2Cs. And in LMP3, the Breton Racing team from France were the winners. They finished 11th overall in the race. In LMP3, Jens Moller, Griffin Peebles and Theodore Jensen, the drivers there in LMP3, that 2Cs Motorsport car finishing 13th overall in GT3. On Sunday, it was another win for Algarve Pro Racing, but this time the other of their cars, there's the Breton Racing car, and there is the number 20 that won on Sunday for Algarve Pro, the team car. Within the last 5 minutes, a spin late on for Tom Dillman cost them victory, and Alex Quinn, Ollie Caldwell and Criton Leon Dunis came through to take victory overall in the 20s. So a big weekend for APR, winning in both on both days. GT3 was won by the Herberth Motorsport Porsche. Ralph Burnett, Robert and Alfred, the brothers, Renauer, 16th place overall, but the winners in GT3, and 10th overall, and the winners in the P3 category for RLR M Sport were Nick Adcock, Ian Aguilera and Chris Short. So they're your winners from the weekend at Dubai. That championship will be the focus of our attention in the EPI this week as well, because it wraps up with 2 more 4-hour races at Yas Marina for Abu Dhabi this weekend, and that's the end of the Asian Le Mans Series as always. Then we've got a week off for Grid EPI after that, and then the first weekend of March, although the Friday is of that weekend, February 28th, the World Endurance Championship kicks off at Qatar, and they've adjusted the time on that race today. Actually, it's been moved back 2 hours in the day local time. So that's going to be a big one on the Friday. So if you're not doing anything on Friday, the 28th of February, you might have 10 hours of World Endurance Championship to feast your eyes on for the first round of their season. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, on the show between now and then. More EPI news on those 2 Abu Dhabi races next week. Now it's time to hand back to Kobe with a couple more headlines from the week that was.
Thanks, Matt. Time for some more motorsports news from around the world. And when you say a couple of headlines, that is right. We don't really have much news going on right now in the motorsports world, but hopefully that'll pick back up in the coming weeks. Dick Johnson Racing's Shelby Powered Racing team will feature a new livery for the upcoming Repco Supercars Championship season. Both Shelby Powered Ford Mustangs will feature a primarily white base with the iconic red and white shell colors returning. Will Davison is back in the number 17 Ford, and we've learned that Bertie Kostecki's new number will be number 38. In 1964, Dick Johnson himself used this number in his first ever race meeting at Lakeside in Queensland, and also used the number 38 when he made select starts in the NASCAR Cup Series back in the day. Kostecki previously ran the number 38 when he competed in the Dunlop Super 2 Series, photo courtesy of Dick Johnson Racing. After being involved with the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship for the last decade, race director Scott Elkins will retire after the Miami E pre-race weekend in April. Elkins has served as the Formula E race director for the last 7 years and plans to step away for personal reasons. In a statement, Elkins said his father passed away in December and he has new responsibilities that require his time and attention back at home. However, Elkins added that he will continue working in motorsports, but working on motorsports-based projects in the United States. That means that Deputy Race Director Marek Hanazuski will be promoted to race director as Elkins' replacement, and Benyat Dupont will become the new deputy race director after previously serving as the series' head of circuit operations. Photo courtesy of Formula E. And speaking of Formula E, we have some Formula E racing happening this weekend. And we also have a World Rally Championship as well. So I'm going to turn over to Matt for everyone's favorite game. Pick a winner.
I am going to miss attentional teams. This is Race Control. Thank you, Scott Elkins, for your time in the Formula E paddock. And he will be there in, I was going to say Diriyah, but it's not. It's Jeddah this weekend, of course, for Formula E. There is the pick a winner leaderboard. I am still top. Hope probably not for long, though, because we've got 4 points up for grabs this weekend in Pick a Winner. Get your picks in across all social media using the hashtag Pick a Winner for the Daytona 500, which we've been talking about. 2 races for Formula E this weekend in Jeddah, Friday and Saturday, and Sunday, of course, wraps up the weekend for WRC Rally Sweden, the greatest show on snow. Let's start, though, our pick a winners for tonight with those Formula E races, or at least one of them, race 1. I've always got the first pick, which is troublesome, although you wouldn't think it looking at the leaderboard. I am going to go with Jake Dennis to win on Friday. Who are you going with, Mr. Kobe?
Yeah, I think Jake Dennis is a good pick. And after getting his season started not on a good note, I think he's going to turn it around by winning race 1 at Jeddah. Give me Nick Cassidy. What you got, Josh?
It's so difficult because this weekend it's like 2 different races, even though it's on the same track. It's a brand new circuit. It's the Formula 1 modified version of Jeddah, so not in Diriyah, it's Jeddah. It's a couple of long straights with some chicanes. So you've got to think Porsche, maybe Jaguar, to be good on energy. I'm going to go with Nick Cassidy to win race 1. And I was really thinking to myself there, would it be a Porsche? But I don't think Verline's got it. And I think Cassidy, the first race at least, is going to be very much a to and throw. So I think that's where Jaguar come in best. Also, just a big reminder to everybody this weekend, this is the first race where we're going to have pit boost. So race 1 will be like normal, but race 2, you will see something you've never seen before. They're going to come in, a 34-second pit stop, and I've been speaking with the World Feed team. You are going to be blown away with the content you've got. You're going to have 4 screens. You can have a pit lane camera. You're going to have a battle camera. You can have a driver tracker, everything. You're going to know where everything's going to go out, and you are not going to be confused at all. It looks brilliant. And I've been given the press briefing that I'll get to a bit later on about how we have to call it all and what it all is about. Very simple, very easily done. And even though it's 34 seconds of just standing still waiting for something to charge, it's going to look entertaining on screen. So thumbs up for me.
Good news. Josh burning a hot already. We'll get to hots and nots in a minute. World Rally Championship blast back into action for its second round of the season. As I mentioned, they're in rallies up in the north for Rally Sweden this weekend. And off the back of Monte Carlo, of course, where Sebastian Ogier took that memorable victory. He's not in action this weekend. So I'm going to go with his teammate, Kalle Rovanperä, to get on the board for the first time this year. Kobe, who are you going with?
I think I'm going to copy you, Matt, and just say Kalle Rovanperä is going to get it done in Rally Sweden. One of my favorite rallies of the year. Looking forward to seeing all of the photos and content coming from Sweden.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the best visual events of the whole motorsport season. So a reminder then, Rally Sweden, 2 Formula E races and Daytona 500, 4 points up for grabs. You could go from nowhere on the leaderboard, literally anywhere apart from the 6 names you see, all the way to the top if you get all of them right. And there may even be a bonus point in there for you if you can do that too. Good luck picking the Daytona 500 winner. That is it for Pick a Winner. Get your predictions in using the hashtag Pick a Winner. Adam says he's going with you guys with Cassidy on Friday, and me and Kobe with Rovanperä for Sweden. Time for hots and nots, as we always do, to finish the show. Myself and Josh. I'm kind of thin on hots. I'm kind of thin on everything. As Kobe mentioned, it's been a fairly slow week for most stuff, as there wasn't really much on at the weekend. And I guess this weekend, with what we've just been talking about with the Pick a Winner stuff, it really now, this is the proper. Now we're off because we've got NASCAR every weekend all the way through to November. So this is if you weren't ready, get ready because it's coming at you thick and fast. I guess that's my only hot is we're off now this weekend and we're rolling.
Well, I'll bring in a MotoGP because they've had their first test. Their first day of the second test and the last body ram yesterday, today, whatever. I'm so confused with dates. So Marc Marquez was fastest, pretty much standard, by 0.4 of a second.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. He's blowing the field away by quite a margin as well. We do understand, though, that Ducati are not going to use the GP25 engine. They're going to stay with the GP24 engine with the 25 bike. So that is going to mean that the Grassinis, who have the GP24 bikes, are actually going to be just as competitive as now, because what happens is, as I explained last year, they start off with the basic bike from the beginning of the 2024 season, and as it goes along, they get the updates throughout the year. So it becomes sort of a spec bike anyway. But because Prima Pramac have now gone to Yamaha, we've got VR46s on the 25 bikes, and Grassini have got the 24 bikes, but the 24 bikes are up to spec. So all that's different is a couple of winglets. That's not going to do anything. So for Mark to be 4 tenths ahead, big statement already that he is fully up to speed. And I think that's great. Another hot is this pit boost because it's honestly, it's fantastic what we've got here. 10% energy, additional energy, which is a 30-second charge, part of a 34-second stationary pit stop. So it's 30 seconds charging, 2 seconds to come in, 2 seconds to get out. It's at 600 kilowatts per hour. You can only pit 1 car per team at a time. So that's going to be no stacking, which is going to be fun. And the FIA are going to determine the window. So you can't just randomly come in to do it. You've got to come in. I believe for Jeddah, it's somewhere between 60 and 40% of energy remaining. You have to come in.
Okay.
That's the pit window. And it does
Instead of
look
it being
great.
a timed window, it's an energy usage.
Yeah,
I like that. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Different.
So it's it's like a mandatory pit stop, like you see in other formula, but it makes it like you've got to come in between this. And another thing that they're going to do is they're not going to stop it behind the safety car. That's one thing we were worried about. And like you can't pit on the safety car. You can. So if you pit a lap, say you pit lap 32 and a safety car comes out lap 33, you don't have an advantage because you've missed that pit window. But if you stay out and get the safety car, you can come in, recharge, and be right back up there at the back of the pack. So it's going to be fascinating to see how it's going to work out, because the way they've done it, it's not going to be boring. And as I said back in when we were at Harama with the simulation race, it did give us quite excitement because we had DaCosta pit from 9th, take the lead, drop back to 4th, but end 2nd. So he gained places when timed right. So I think it's going to be interesting. And if it doesn't work, it's still been tried. But Formula E is on the up, 100%. And that's it for my hots because there isn't any.
Got time to tweak it, I guess, for the next round. It won't be. It's only at the double headers, isn't it? So which Monaco, yes, because there's only one race at Miami, isn't there? So which is next at Homestead. You will have, talking about that, you will have people getting double jeopardy if they take attack mode, then the safety car comes out, and then they pit. They're going to have double bubble bonus. I've got my attack mode out of the way, and I've pitted under the safety car. That's going to be fun. Knots. Let's switch gears. I think we're probably both on the same trajectory, and we never talk about what we're going to talk about in Hots and Knots before we get here. And get your bingo card ready, because he's here again in his favourite place in the segment every week. Is our good old FIA president, more BS. He's not decided because it's not come in, but he said, let's just take the radios out. Let's stop broadcasting team radio during the broadcast, and then we won't hear them swearing. But as I've said on social media, and I said in the grid chat, if a tree falls down in the woods and no one hears it fall down, it still makes a damn noise.
I know, it's ridiculous.
It's not that. If that is we talked about this a lot on this show, if that is the main problem at the moment, stopping the radio going out on the TV broadcast is not going to solve the problem.
It's the fact also that he's on about stopping the radio completely. That's what I couldn't understand. It's like,
really? Okay.
It's
taking
complete.
radio away.
Yeah, complete takeaway. And I was like, right. They tried this once before in 2003. They wanted to take the radios away because at those times they were digital radios. So the radio could actually act like a signal to fix the car. So if there was a problem, they could type it in and it'll fix it automatically with the radio system. And Max Mosley didn't like that. So he said, right, we're going to ban team radio. The teams then came back and said, can we keep team radio, but make it a basic system that you can monitor? And he said, I've got no problem with that. I just don't want them controlling the car with team radio. It should be up to the driver. So that's how we've got the modern radio system now. But I don't like how when Mohammed Ben Salayam reads a book on how to dictate, I don't like that he's reading from a Mosley book, because that could go quite interestingly.
Dictators,
a little bit of political. Yeah.
Yes. Look it up for new F1 fans.
Yes.
But, make sure your safe search is turned on. Yeah.
Also, Bernie still doesn't know where that car is, by the way, from the train.
Really? Yes,
Yeah.
sure. I also, if they get rid of team radio, that's a massive safety issue.
Really is.
It's
and
huge, massive.
It's so bizarre that Formula One's radio system is basic as it is now, because it's so far behind what other series have. In other series, the race director can directly talk to the drivers and can directly say where the problems are.
Like in Formula E, as I mentioned before.
Yeah, Formula One doesn't have that. It's very much been sort of held back. The whole thing with Formula One at the moment, I feel, is like it's just like they've got you by the neck and they're strangling you and you can't do anything, because we're stuck in a hybrid era that has gone the way of the dinosaurs, and every other series on the planet have got rid of it, bar IndyCar, who decided to join late because that's just IndyCar. You've got radio systems that are out of date because the safety issues are just bizarre, not working. You've got track systems that are failing and are not up to scratch. And you've got an FIA president who is more concerned with Formula One than any of the other series that they cover. And a system that is falling down so much that Scott Elkin, this time it's for personal reasons, but that's about the 30th member in this past
right.
12 months that's left. So it's like, I just can't believe it. If ever there was a time for an insurrection, it's now. It really is. And I
They'll
say
be
this.
marching on Paris before we know it.
Yeah, storm the FIA. As well, like, yeah. To be fair, I would. I would at this point. It's getting ridiculous. It can't go on. I have got a feeling that we are heading towards the drivers, the teams, and I think a solidarity between championships to get rid of Mohammed Ben Sulayem.
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if that happens between now and the end of the year.
Yeah,
because if he starts meddling in WEC and making, because you know how well we talked about it a lot. Of the sports car trajectory at the moment is absolutely on fire.
High. Yeah.
If he starts meddling in that, then that could be big, well, especially with all the manufacturer involvement. Yeah, interesting to see if anything gets said, mentioned, slipped under the rug on Tuesday night at the O2 for the big launch, which I'm sure we'll talk about on the show next week. But we've got the big F1 launch on Tuesday in London with all teams, all drivers, all team principals, all singing, all dancing, etc., etc. So if you're going, enjoy, but you'll probably see more on the telly, I would suggest.
Yeah, I still don't know what we're covering with that. I think the plan is that we're going to broadcast it on JB Motorsports 2 because we've got no idea what it's going to be like, and then we'll premiere it on the main channel because we're not risking it because we've got zero idea what's going on. We've had no information at all. I don't know. It just feels like a bad time, which is weird because the on-track action this year is going to be spectacular, and I think it's across all series actually as well.
I can't remember what year it was. It must have been 2015 or 16, maybe, before the Melbourne race. They did something kind of similar where they had the drivers come out speak, but we had testing by then, of course, because this was at Melbourne, and we knew what the cars looked like. At least with this, we're going to see the cars for the first time, whether there would be the actual car with or last year's car with this year's livery on, etc., etc. I guess we're going to see a lot of that, but be nice to see all the drivers, the new switching drivers in their new colours and stuff.
Was it 2017 when Liberty took over with this launch?
Could have been.
I do remember it. I just can't remember when. That went down like a lead balloon.
Well, whatever it was, they had Chemical Brothers as the official Formula One song, and then they played it for about 2 weeks, and then they stopped playing it, which was
it's still in my head.
It's still on my Spotify playlist. Love a bit of Chemical Brothers.
It's catchy. I'll give you that.
Yeah, I think we've done fairly well to drag 53 minutes out of a very slow news week. So should we wrap it up there?
Yeah, I am. I've got to get her in. I've got to see what she's up to. I've got to complain about something. There's a lot of people that play bingo. No, not Fab. Dan. Let's have a look. What's she doing? I can't find anything. My God. Oh, wait. No, never mind.
It's a mid-February miracle.
Yeah, she was up watching President Trump.
Of course she was.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. She's also gone for Mark Twain, but she's put a photo on of the guy who played him in Star Trek, not actual Mark Twain. Danica be Danica. Oh, okay. So taking a look at our upcoming schedule, and it's a busy one as well. At 8 p.m. Eastern later tonight, watch single car qualifying for Daytona 500 on Fox Sports 1. Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern, a special Grid Live pre-race that's previewing tomorrow night's Daytona Duels. Sunday, Grid Live pre-race that's at noon Eastern, previewing the 67th running of the Daytona 500. And Sunday night, Grid Live wrap-up. That's 90 minutes after the Great American Race, and I'll be recapping everything, including Formula E as well. Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern, Grid Encore, recapping the season opening for the Xfinity Series, Truck Series, and ARCA Menard Series as well. And we'll be back next week for all of the action as well. Please do continue to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you very much for helping us reach 1,500 subscribers. And now we are inching closer to our next milestone of 2,000 subscribers. You can hit the bell icon to get notifications so you'll always know when we go on the air. And you can follow all of our social media platforms and visit our website, gridnetworktv.com. You can take 5 minutes to invest in the Grid Network through Patreon. You can join Colin, Mark, Michelle, Robin, David, and Matthew, who invest each month in the Grid Network. And we encourage you to join these fine folks, help us keep us on the air. And once we hit $500 per month, we can afford to send our team to the track more often and continue to grow our media outlet. The link to that is in the video description. And if you want to do a one-time donation, you click on the Buy Me a Coffee link, get your name on the board, and invest as much as you want, and consider buying a specific on-air personality a cup of coffee, and they will thank you on the air. So for Kobe Lambeth and Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index, a special thank you as well to Jackson Lattenborough for joining us as well. I'm Joshua Birch from JB Motorsports. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.